This podcast is made possible through donations from listeners like you and our partners at Goalie Ashwa Gummies. You can find them at goalie.com. Use promo code the ShowUp Dad Foundation to get 10% off your order. Zenderance Active Wellness and Sports Nutrition. Their products are designed to maximize your health. As Zenderance, they strive to support and have a positive impact on the wellness of every hardworking dad. Use my code, the ShowUp Dad, and get 10% off your next purchase. For more info, go to www.zenderance.com. Tall Man Equipment, standing taller than the rest of the competition in lineman tools since 1952. Give them a follow at www.tallmanequipment.com. And last but not least, Adam Lane Smith. He is an attachment specialist who helps people to heal, connect, and build. Use my promo code SHOW, spelled SHOW, for a 50% discount on his attachment bootcamp course. Thank you. Welcome to the ShowUp Dad Podcast. This podcast celebrates the journey of fatherhood. I'm your host, and in today's episode, we have a remarkable guest, a U.S. Air Force veteran who served as a Special Forces Pararescue and cross-trained into the Air Force Fire Department. He's a combat veteran of Desert Shield, and for 22 years, he has been a journeyman lineman in the IBEW. He's happily married with 2 sons and grew up as the third oldest among 4 siblings. Join us as we explore his experiences and delve into the world of being a ShowUp Dad. Welcome to our show, brother.
All right. Thank you very much, David. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you asking me to join you tonight.
Absolutely. Well, let's start things off, Erick, by me asking you why you think father involvement is important, brother.
That's the pinnacle question. That's a big question. It's I don't think, kind of like on the reverse, how important would it be if fathers weren't involved, right? We've seen that throughout our history, fatherless families and what happens to them and the children that come. So, I mean, that right there for me says it all. You know, the father is he's the structure in the home for religious families. He is their religious leader. He is their faith, and without a father, the statistics are staggering on what happens with children without fathers in the home, with their levels of success and their levels of criminal activity, their levels of, participation in meaningful activities outside of the home. It's just, I think fathers play a massive role in the development of good, honest, healthy young men and women. And I just strive to be the best role model that I can be for my boys, my 2 sons, and want to be that engaged as often and as much as possible type father. I got 2 little boys, and they're not of the age yet where they're in all sorts of extracurriculars, but when the day comes, I'm honored to be able to participate in those extracurriculars as much as possible. Never have I heard a man say when he was on his way out, I wish I would have worked more. So I like to plan on making the time for my boys when that time comes. I mean, even now, making the time for them, but definitely as they start to progress through life and they need that father figure in their life to help them, guide them through. It's a tough world.
I like the way that you said that you're there to help them, to guide them, right? That's one of our roles as a father. How do you think also that a ShowUp Dad positively impacts a child's self-esteem and sense of security? Excuse me.
Yeah. That's one thing, especially for boys. I think, I don't have any experience. I don't have any daughters. But I, being my relationship with my father and having my father teach me how to be confident and how to not give up, how to just pick yourself up when you fall down and keep moving forward. Fathers have a different way of parenting, I think, than mothers. So there's that whole term, the devouring mother, out there. And, I have a military background. I imagine, like I said, my boys are still newer to this world and I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I imagine when it comes to the parenting, I'll probably take a somewhat traditional hard line, but with a modern day love that, maybe generations ago you didn't see, definitely make sure that they know they're loved, hugs, affection. I didn't get a lot of that growing up as a kid. And that's part of, in my mind, what being a ShowUp dad is. They can do wrong, and it's okay. You let them know you can do wrong, but even admitting your own faults to your sons, letting them know that I made a mistake and it's okay, but this is how we pick up and move on from here. And I think, not that a mother can't do it, but a father brings a special blend of that sort of mentality to the table that I think especially boys need to hear from a father.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, bro. And I love that you said that a father brings that stability. Think about it. Our wives, right, are programmed that they need to know that their present, past, and future are taken care of, right? That's stability. When we say that, when we break it down to its rawest form, that's stability, right? Yeah. Well, that's what we bring, not only as a husband, but as a father to the family. And no one else can do that.
Right. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. It's a unique role. It's a big responsibility. And I'm blessed by God to be given this opportunity, to look after his children for him while we are on this earth. That's essentially what it is. I'm just a steward for now of my boys, and I'm going to do the absolute best that I can with what I know, and with God also. I don't worry about things. I wasn't always a Christian guy, and with God in my corner, I really don't know how things don't go wrong in God's world, right? It's there are no coincidences, and things go the way that God has them go. It's just that sometimes how they go, and you just keep on moving forward. And being able to raise my boys in a Christian home, with we also have a sober home, and showing them that, and how to live life and how to have a good time without that in their lives. I think is a key thing. It's important, to like I said, just, life is tough. It's going to knock them down. And how do you show a kid to get back up and still move forward with confidence, and not let life get the best of them. And, I had a good childhood with my father. He did show me a lot of that stuff growing up. He taught me a lot about morals and ethics and character and stuff like that. And I think that upbringing, I was very fortunate to have a dad in my life like that. We still to this day have an amazing relationship. Even all of the trials and tribulations I've gone through, we still have a great relationship. And I think my upbringing was what made it possible for me to, succeed at an early age, screw it all up, succeed again, screw it all up, succeed again. And just kind of this roller coaster of positive and negatives in my life, and never give up. Just continue moving forward with confidence that at some point I'm going to pull this thing together. And I've had quite a life. I have I think a pretty good story of down and out, and then glory, and to be able to share that with my boys, and it can happen. And yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we love to do here at the ShowUp Dad. We like taking people's mess and allowing them to turn it into a message, right? Because you never know what people are going through, And with that being said, Erick, I like for you to share with us your personal journey of overcoming addiction and what led you to make the decisions to become sober, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to. My mission today is to share a message of hope and recovery for those that want to hear it. It's not one of those things where you're running around knocking on doors. I don't do that. But anybody who is asking, or anybody who might be needing, or I always want my hand of recovery to be there and be available if somebody needs it. And so my journey was, I'm a military veteran. I suffer from PTSD. I'm 100% service connected through the military, and for PTSD. So I had some trauma going through in there. And after my discharge from the service, I never realized it. So while I was in the service, I got 2 DUIs on base, on a military base. So they were never part of my civilian record. They never followed me, but it didn't look good. My drinking really took off after I got back from Desert Shield. And I never really paid attention to that. I didn't think anything of it. I just kind of thought that kind of went with the territory. You know, in the military, that kind of is sort of the territory. Is, you know, you get together with the guys and you drink, and alcohol always affected me in a different way. You know, chemically, internally. You know, there's science involved in how your body processes alcohol in each and every one of us. And the way mine processed it, maybe just wasn't up to par like it was for others. And I just, like I said, I never really paid attention to it. And so moving forward from there, I made a big mistake, looking for belonging and unity again. Like when I was in the service, you know, I was, like I said, I was in Special Forces Pararescue, and then the fire department, which are two units of high camaraderie, you know, even above and beyond the camaraderie that you already get in the military. I was in two specialized units that really bring camaraderie about. And so when I exited the military, I was seeking that same camaraderie and brotherhood, you know, and I had gotten into power lines at 23 years old. I was an apprentice a couple of years after I was an apprentice or got into the apprenticeship. I joined an outlaw motorcycle club, and I won't go into what color it was, but it wasn't a nice one. And that was, you know, I was searching for that kind of camaraderie that I had in the service. And then moving forward from there, that introduced a whole new aspect to substance abuse. It used to just be alcohol, and that turned me into methamphetamines. And I was hooked on methamphetamines for about 5 years in my late 20s. That one was, I actually kicked that on my own. You know, that recovery didn't require a process. It didn't require a program. It just kind of required not, you know, deleting some phone numbers and getting away from the people that brought about. And so I exited this outlaw motorcycle club, which, despite popular belief, is possible, not easy, but possible. And with that, I was able to kick that habit on my own. And so I always thought, you know what, alcohol, I could kick that as well on my own. I mean, I kicked the hardcore street drug. You know, I was able to put a stop to that habit. So I always thought with alcohol, I would be able to do the same thing if I so chose to do so. Fast forward from there, I got into a lot of trouble. I got some DUIs as an apprentice. It extended my apprenticeship. You mentioned I was a journeyman lineman for 22 years. I've been in the trade for 22 years, and I had a 9-year-long apprenticeship because of my drinking problems. You know, and there back goes to the whole, how important is a father in life? Well, I had a good one. And a 9-year apprenticeship, maybe some other guys might give up. I don't know. I can't speak for other men, but I didn't give up. I continued to push forward despite all of the problems with all of it. And I continued looking for a way to finish my apprenticeship to become a journeyman lineman. You know, it wasn't an easy thing. It wasn't easy to get up and keep going when you've been an apprentice for 9 years. You know, that's we all know, and at least maybe not all the audience knows, but the ones that are linemen that listen to the show, they know what apprentices life as an apprentice is like, and it's not fun.
No.
And it took a lot to continue to push through all that. But I knew what I wanted, and I knew I wasn't going to give up. I don't have that kind of mentality. I'm, you know, a no surrender type guy. I'm the guy that's on the MMA mat. I'm going to go unconscious before I tap, just because I don't know how to not do that, I guess. And so, moving through that portion, my drinking as an apprentice, and then even as into being a lineman, it just continued to, you know, I had bouts where I was less alcoholic, I guess you could say, than other times. And then, you know, slowly your body starts to be able to not deal with the alcohol the way that it used to. You know, as you get older and you continue drinking, your body processes it a less than optimal rate than it maybe did when you were in your 20s or 30s or whatever. So now fast forward to my 40s, I had gotten another DUI. So, you know, these things are starting to pile up on me. And because of my record, this DUI, it was on November 7th of 2020. And I don't even remember it entirely because I was blacked out behind the wheel of my pickup truck. And I smacked into a vehicle, sideswiped another truck, and caused an injury to that gentleman. And then finished the accident running into a palm tree at the corner of an In-N-Out burger.
Wow.
I don't remember it. I read most of it in the police report. It's very disappointing. And I wouldn't share this when I first started, when all this became about, and all the troubles that I had going through all of these things, with the motorcycle club and the military issues that I ran into after getting back from my deployments, and then the DUI as an apprentice. I didn't want to share any of this with anybody. It was private information to me. It was embarrassing. It was shameful. The fact that I was a 9-year apprentice was shameful. And I'm not ashamed of it anymore. But it took my recovery in order to teach me to not be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
It's been quite the journey. And I've recognized that while I'm going through the middle of something, while I'm in the shit, it's not fun to talk about it because it's shameful. And then once you're able to, if you're blessed enough to be able to move past whatever issues you're dealing with, substance use, legal, marital, anything, it's not fun to talk about in the middle of it. But once you move through it, and you can't go around a problem, I learned about that. You cannot go around the problem. The problem doesn't get solved, nor do you grow as a human being if you go around a problem. And I was really good at going around problems for most of my life, and never actually attacking why, or and that led me to a drinking career of in excess of 26 years before I decided to get sober. And I learned that walking through my problems would teach me, it was painful. There's a lot of feelings that are involved in walking through issues, and digging up the old stuff that you don't want to talk about, that you don't remember, that you buried so long ago. I had a lot of PTSD from this motorcycle club, even, that I was involved in, that compiled on top of my military PTSD. And the working the program that I'm in was able to help me to uncover a lot of it, and bring it to the surface, and work on it, and there was work involved, and there was a lot of pain involved, and I'm a lot better person for it today, though, because of all of that. So my whole journey in recovery started because of that DUI on November 7th of 2020. After that DUI with an injury, I was facing, because of my record, I was facing 4.5 years in prison. Well, I was facing 6 to 10. And I was prepared to take a plea bargain for 4.5 years. I was 2 weeks away from signing a plea bargain for 4.5 years. I'm just married. My wife is pregnant with my first son, who's now 20 months old. And I'm facing 4.5 years in prison. I have no idea where they're going to live. These are the fears, right? Fears that I was running, that I had going on in my mind during all of this. It was a tough time.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm faced with where are they going to live? Is my son, he's not going to see me or know his dad. I'm not going to be a ShowUp Dad for the first 4.5 years of his life, and maybe longer if you never catch a case inside trying to defend or protect yourself, possibly. Just all these fears were going through my head. And I was presented by the grace of God, and I'll give you a quick story on this. I mean, this is a God shot like you've never, I've not heard one better yet. And I might be biased because it's mine, but so my wife is working on her LCSW, I think it's called, licensed clinical social worker master's degree. She has to work through a internship. So she volunteers to work with a program out of downtown Riverside that works closely with the Riverside Veterans Treatment Court program. Me being a veteran, she's working with the founder of this program. And she initially had explained to him that I was a friend who was in this mess, and what could maybe happen, like what could we do about that? So he was kind of guiding and advising her. He knows the judge that sits on the bench personally. They've played golf together, they're friends, so on and so forth, right? So the relationship is tight. So up until the point, I'm just a friend that she's explaining to her, the guy she's internship for. He's a sergeant major in the Army, retired, and he runs this nonprofit to mentor veterans that are in this mess, right? So she goes to him, and finally, 2 weeks out, I'm ready to sign this plea agreement. for 4.5 years. I'm ready to accept it, because if I take it to the box, I'm looking at 6 to 10. And so, and then when that paperwork comes across, now it's time to get real. So she calls him and she said, well, that friend that I was telling you about is actually my husband. And she had it on speaker, and I could hear it in his voice, like, oh my, what can we do? Right.
Yeah.
He says, I'll talk to, let me talk to some people. And, with my criminal past and my gang affiliation, it was a long shot for me to get into that program, a long shot. Well, I won't use any names just in case if whoever's listening here, but so we're laying in bed 2 nights prior to the day of court where I'm going to sign this plea agreement. She gets a friend request from the bench judge, the sitting bench judge in the VA treatment court. A friend request on Facebook from the bench sitting judge in VA treatment court. I go into treatment court to have my case heard to see if they'll accept it, and my case was accepted by the VA treatment court. So what that did for me is during that program, and it's an 18-month long program, but they suspend the 4.5-year prison sentence.
Wow.
And dismiss it completely upon successful completion of the program. And I had already been going to AA as a means of trying to just find some sort of recovery prior to. But in the back of it was tough, man. In the back of my mind, I knew, I'm going to have 4.5 years to get sober. I'll just wait till I get there. And so I struggled with sobriety initially. For the first 1.5 years of my attempts, I 60 days, 90 days, and I would relapse. They were just single one-night relapses, but they started to add up and they started to become painful, as a whole. I didn't cause any more issues or troubles during these relapses, but I just wasn't seemingly getting this program, and I was told and taught that you got to surrender your higher power, which is God. And that's the one thing I have a hard time doing. Like I said, I don't tap out. So trying to surrender, the word surrender really bound me up good. I had a difficult time surrendering my will to accept God's will. And when I got accepted into that veterans treatment court, I felt it. My skin crawled the day that was read out in the courtroom, that, all right, we're going to take you into this program. And there was some folks in that room that didn't want me in that program because of my history and my record and my affiliations. That was God doing for me what I could not do for myself, 100%. And it was at that point in time, I call that a spiritual experience. And he stepped into my life, and he's been there ever since, and I lean on him now, God, for everything. All decisions go through him. Moving forward, all my recovery is because and through the Lord Jesus Christ.
Amen.
He is very present in our home. And like I said, man, that was the biggest God shot for me. I got into that program. I actually graduate that program on July 14th. And today's the 9th. So this coming Friday, I will graduate that program. It'll be 18 months running, and I will have successfully completed that program. And I have to give a big speech upon my graduation. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. It's a huge accomplishment, I believe. The program's not easy, and nor should it be. Considering what they're doing for me, I was prepared and willing to jump through any hoops that they asked me to do. And this is going to sound crazy. I'm grateful today for that DUI. I'm grateful that I was pinned up against the wall so hard by the law that I had no other options than to try to get sober. And then God opened a door for me with this veterans court, and without that door being open, I don't know where I would be, without that program, I don't know where I would be. And so furthering from that program, because I just wanted to see what else is out there for me. How much better can this get? So I run through community outreach programs of my own, like Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm an active member in Alcoholics Anonymous. I speak at rehab clinics and institutions. I will go into these places and talk about recovery. It's usually like maybe 3 or 4 of us, and we'll go in there and shoot like a 10, 15, 20-minute spiel to the clients or the inmates,
Mm-hmm.
and explain to them, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today for us,
Yeah.
kind of like we're doing right here. And just trying to share that message of hope and experience and recovery. And yeah, that's pretty much how my journey in recovery got started.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I am grateful today. You can't get into that program unless you're an alcoholic. I mean, I guess you can go walk in there and say you are, but you're probably not going to stick around if you believe in your heart you're not. You have to believe it in your heart. And because of that program, man, it's given me a life that I'm glad I'm not in charge of my life anymore, because the script that I would have written looks nothing like the script that God wrote for me. And I'm just so blessed and so grateful that I was able to get out of my own way long enough to allow God to do his handiwork.
I like that you said that, Eric. Get out of it. Get out of your own way, right? Because I think we're our biggest hindrances a lot of times, right?
100%. 100%.
And it's crazy because like I had this, it was on Instagram, and this person reached out to me, and we're talking about sobriety and mental health and stuff like that. And I made this post, and this other person came on and say, "Oh yeah, we listened to your podcast. We think what you're doing is great, but it's too religious for us." Right. Okay. And then they put something else about this other program and everything. And it was an AA program. I'm like, oh, where do you think they get their script from?
Right. There's a lot of God in the, I think I don't know for certain, but when you first start that program, some sponsors in that program will tell you, go circle the word God in the first 164 pages, which is like the meat and the potatoes of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And God is mentioned in there over 100 times. It's not designed as a religious program. So religion and spirituality are two different things, right?
Yes.
Religious is the practice, like a Catholic is a religion, but Catholic is nothing more than a Christian. It's of the Christian faith still. And that's the type of spirituality I practice. I practice spirituality and Christianity, not necessarily so much the religion and the sacrimony of the religions. And that's what AA is. It's a spiritual based program. It really is, because we've tried to quit drinking on our own and we couldn't. I failed miserably many times. And I couldn't keep trying because it was continuing to bind me up. I continued to run into problems with the law. My marriage was on the rocks. And who knows what kind of father I would be if I still was that guy. And it's that spirituality in that program that brought me to God. It's given me the ability to turn into the guy I am today. I didn't even think it was possible. I really did not think that a guy like me would ever succumb to, and that's how I looked at it. Like, I'm just giving up, that initially, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what kind of life it was going to give me. So I was looking at like, okay, life's going to suck. It's going to be boring. How do you go to a Dodger game and not have a beer? I didn't know. I'd never known that before. I'd been drinking since I was a teenager, and I'd always drank. So for me to stop drinking, I didn't see it being possible, and at least not having a zest for life. I couldn't have been more wrong. And that's why I said, it sounds funny, but I'm grateful to be an alcoholic, because it's shown me a way of life that I would have never otherwise known. Let's say I'm not a problem drinker. I would have never gotten to this. I probably maybe never would have gotten in touch with my higher power, God, Jesus Christ, right? So that program brought me to him. I may just be a couple of beer a night kind of guy and be miserable still because I don't have a relationship with my God.
Yeah.
And so when I say I'm grateful, I'm not grateful for the damage I caused. I'm not grateful for the pain I caused. I am grateful that my alcoholism essentially is what brought me to my level of spirituality that I have today. And because of that, I'm now able to make amends for the things I've done wrong, try and give back. Like this podcast is a form for me, is a form of being able to give back, which I'm absolutely honored to do. I'm honored to be asked to be able to do that today. I'm a union steward for the union hall now. Something I would have never been interested in before. But I took a lot away from the contractors in the union that I worked for over the years. Contractors don't know what kind of guy they're going to get when I show up hungover or still intoxicated from the night before. And I know there's a lot of that stuff going on in our trade today. And are you given 100% every day that you show up for work? Are you 100% ready for duty? I know I wasn't. And so that's, me stepping up and getting more involved in the union and, and in stuff like this, or the apprenticeship is my way of being able to try and make an amends for what I feel like I took. And I didn't take a monetary figure. I didn't take, in that sense, but I did steal in the sense that I wasn't at my absolute best when I showed up for work, and that went on for many, many years. And I'm not that guy today. I'm worth having around today, and I'm proud to be able to say that I'm a completely different hand, so than I was when I was out there drinking and using.
And just think about, even at the perspective of your family, right? Think about the level of security your wife now feels, knowing that she doesn't have to worry about bad Erick, right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean?
It is monumental. We discuss that often. The first year and a half of our marriage, she was worried constantly, sleepless nights, checking me on our Life 360 phone app tracker to see, if anything had happened, or she doesn't have to do that anymore. My sons are never going to see me drink. My parents don't have to worry about me anymore. My employer knows the employee that they're going to get every single day. I'm consistent in everything that I do. My neighbors don't have to avoid me when I go outside and I'm, a little mouthy and pissed off. Other drivers on the road, society as a whole is safer with this guy not drinking and using. And it's been a magical journey. The amount of worry that me not drinking is creating for the people that in my life I love and love me is beyond words. Words can't even really describe it. I wouldn't imagine, from their point of view, like you said, it's huge.
It's good to see that your sobriety has impacted your overall personal growth and development beyond just overcoming addiction,
Huge, man. Like I didn't get into recovery so I could grow as a human being. I got into recovery just so I could quit drinking. And I got so much more than just stopping to my alcoholism. That's why you start that journey. And then along the way, though, some of my deeply rooted beliefs have been turned upside down. I used to think violence is the easiest and only way. I don't believe that anymore. I still do believe that it is a way and it does solve problems, hence the reason for war. It unfortunately might be the most effective way, but it is also the worst way. There are other ways that you should approach things first. And I know that and see that now. That's just the military mindset coming out in me that I was a young, impressionable kid. I signed up for the military at 17 years old. And super impressionable. And I was a soldier and that was my job. And, that's when your belief system starts to develop as a young man. And it was at a pinnacle time. And I created a lot of deep rooted beliefs that I thought were just who I was going to be forever. And the fact of me not drinking anymore or coming in, joining a program of recovery. Like I said, I only came to Alcoholics Anonymous and this Veterans Treatment Court to quit drinking. And I got so much more than that. And not just me, everybody around me got so much more than that. I've had guys that I work with that, they've told me flat out that whatever you're doing, man, keep doing it. It's amazing. It's great. Like this new guys that had seen me one way and now this way. It's huge. The impact that this program has had on my overall personal growth as a man. And like I said, it's this program that I'm in that is, it's building me to be a show up dad, because if I was still drinking, I would not be a show up dad. I just wouldn't be. I know I wouldn't be. I'll tell you, at the end of my drinking in the last year of it, so I mean, obviously there's legal problems that come with it, but this is on the day-to-day drinking issue for me. If you were to call me at 7 p.m. and I already knew what kind of state of mind I was approaching, I wouldn't accept the phone call, but I would text you back and tell you, I can't take your call. I'm in the middle of something right now, but I can text. And I did that strategically so I would have a record of what we talked about, because I knew no way in hell was I going to remember what we talked about if I talked to you again the next day or the following day.
Wow.
So I would make sure that I kept a text message record so that way I could refer back to it. That's how bad I had gotten at the end. And so for me to believe that I was going to be able to pull this off and actually get sober, it was a long shot in my mind. Like I said, getting into a program of action and spirituality, building a relationship with God has absolutely done for me what I would not have been able to do and could not do on my own.
How did the support system keep you committed for your sobriety during those difficult times?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different types of people in AA. It brings people together from all walks of life, right?
Yeah.
And while I don't associate, I do it when I go to meetings and stuff like that. And when I get in the middle of my recovery and participate in it, there's nobody that I won't associate with or talk with. But then there's a few guys that you run into, and you'll do this in line work even, right? You'll find some guys, we're all linemen, but a few of us have a deeper connection maybe than just linemen. And those are the guys that you invite to your house to have barbecues with, and maybe even go on family vacations with, and you become a part of each other's personal lives as well, right? That's how it works in line work. Yeah. That same kind of concept works in Alcoholics Anonymous as well. You find some guys that you build organic style friendships with, and they just they grow, and some of my best friends today are from the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I didn't mention this, my wife is also a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. She has 17 years of sobriety. I'm approaching 2. She has 17 and I'm approaching 2. So like I said, we have a alcohol-free home, drug-free home. And then it really is a bonding thing for my wife and I, because we go to meetings together. They have co-ed meetings, they have men's, they have women's, but we go to a lot of co-ed meetings together, and that's time for us to spend together as well. And we're doing this thing together, which even makes it that much better and that much more powerful, to have that kind of support system. And then there's lots of couples in this program. So we do lots of couple stuff, ball games, camping trips, just dinners out. I couldn't tell you how many babysitters we have if we need it, right? My world just got so massive, from the tiny nucleus of people that I kept around me, to the massive nucleus that I have of people around me today. We're never short on having something to do or people to do it with. And that's, so the support system is a huge, huge part. And it's a part of being vulnerable and, sticking your hand out and introducing yourself to people. Maybe it's uncomfortable, maybe it's, but in the beginning, and in the beginning, man, it's different. You're unsure. You don't really know, maybe lack trust of people. It's different for everybody. But getting out there, getting vulnerable, being outgoing, maybe stepping outside your comfort zone, that's where you really grow. If you continue to do just what's comfortable, you're probably not going to grow all that much. And so getting involved in doing that has been a great, great benefit to fostering a huge support system.
No, definitely. Support system is one of the greatest things that a man could have. We're taught so much that you don't cry, you don't share your feelings, none of this stuff, right? But when you get like-minded individuals around you, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. You know what I mean? Obviously, you don't want to go hang out with someone who's a goody two-shoe or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because they can't relate.
Right. Right.
But when you surround yourself with someone who can relate, who knows the problems, who knows how it is to go to jail or be worrying about the different things that are entailed with drinking, alcohol, or drug abuse or whatever. You know what I mean? They're able to show empathy towards you because they could put themselves in your
Absolutely. Shoes. They've been there. Yeah. There's no judgment. And that's one of the big things in this program. There is no room for judgment. That's not our job to begin with. but especially in this program, because who are you to say, I have, you got your own story, and I'm sure there's some silly stuff going on in it as well, right? That's what one alcoholic might say to another. So yeah, there is absolutely zero judgment in this program. And it's just a huge sense of belonging. I'm even involved. There's others in our trade that are a part of this program, without throwing any anonymity out there. But it's a huge blessing to have other men in our trade. So now we've not got the AA or the recovery aspect in common, but we also can talk about, we're sharing our experience, strength, and hope with other dudes that are out there smashing dead ends and climbing poles, and stringing wire. And to be able to, that's just a whole nother level. That's just a whole nother, I've guys that I didn't know in this trade that I do now because they're in this program of recovery also. And so, yeah, my phone is never short of a text message or a phone call, and it's exhausting, honestly. Sometimes, it's busy. Life is super busy when when your nucleus gets big. Just recently, there's been a bunch of tragedy going on in my world. My grandmother passed away. My dad's live-in girlfriend of 15 years passed away. There's a member in our union. His wife isn't doing so well. And she is on her last leg. And my heart absolutely grieves for him. So a lot of tragedy, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't have any tragedy in my life before because I only had 4 people in it, maybe. So with this big nucleus does come more tragedy because you care more about more people. And that's something that's new for me. I'm learning because this is like this first little, it's a chunk of tragic things happening. And the beauty of it is I don't feel like taking a drink over any of it. I often say I used to drink because of how I felt.
Yeah.
And today I don't drink because of how I feel. Right. So I can't emulate this feeling in anything else. There, not even alcohol was able to create the sort of sense of inner peace and comfort. Even, it's often said it was never my problem. It was always my solution to my problems. I drank to bury my problems. So it was not a problem. It was the solution to the problems. And then it eventually became a problem in itself. And today I have a much better grasp on how to handle those problems. And thinking back, alcohol never solved any of the problems, right? It just masked them. Today I can solve problems, and I can solve them with grace and dignity without taking a drink. And I feel good doing it. I feel okay dealing with tragedy, dealing with loss or death. My son, when he was born, he was in the ICU for 5 days. My wife and I were on our knees in the hospital praying together with tears pouring down our face because we just didn't know if he was going to make it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like taking a drink because of that.
Wow.
And I'm newly sober. That's how fast it can happen,
Yeah.
And I'm newly sober. So, it's just, it's been such a tremendous gift to be able to, I have that sort of confidence now to walk through anything in life. You know? I never know when God's going to test me next or again. But I also know that I can put my trust and faith in him, and that he's going to guide me through whatever he does throw at me. And I can walk through whatever situation, problem, or glory with grace and dignity, with being, as well as being humble, when things go my way.
Man, I just want to say, Eric, that's the true mark of healing right there that only God could do.
Right.
I mean, because we all know that drinking is just a mask for pain or trauma or whatever. And it doesn't even have to be drinking. It could be drugs. It could be pornography. It could be whatever it is, whatever trigger there is. Right.
Right.
But the true mark of healing is when God comes into your life, when you accept him and you allow him to do the work, and you allow him to walk with you through the pain.
Yes. Yeah. It's phenomenal, man. The things I used to worry about, I don't anymore. I give it to God. For any financial strain, I know he's going to take care of me. I think Luke 12:2.4 says, if he feeds even the ravens of the air, would he not even feed his own children? More valuable are you than the ravens, so I don't worry about finances anymore like I used to. Stress was a big thing for me. Stress and trauma, fear, I guess. Stress is a form of fear.
Yeah.
Or the unknown is a form of fear. So most of my drinking was fear based, I think. Still learning about myself as I walk through this thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not afraid anymore. And I think that's really a lot of my trigger came from fear, if you really break it down. And now I'm not afraid. I have God on my side now. And I do give as much as I possibly am capable of giving him with the level of spirituality that I currently have. I hand it to him, and I'm not afraid now. I don't need to be afraid. Therefore, I don't feel like the necessity to drink. There's a necessity for me to drink, to deal with the fear, the stress, the unknown, the anxiety, the PTSD from way back. I don't have any, the fear of losing my son. I mean, how much bigger of a fear can I have experienced? And I didn't feel the need, because if that was God's will, I don't want to understand his will. If I could, then he's really not much more than a human himself.
Yes.
And God is not a human. He is godly. And so I don't want to be able to understand his will per se, but I just need to trust it. And I do today. And it didn't come overnight. It takes time. It's a practice, something that needs to be nurtured. And, I hit my knees in the morning every day, hit them at night at the end of every day, and thank him. I ask him for things in the morning. I thank him for those things in the evening.
Amen. I agree with that, brother. So now we're talking about this, Erick.
Yeah.
How important is forgiveness, both for yourself and for others, in the context of your journey to sobriety and also for parenting? Because I know a lot of men carry this certain guilt about what they did in the past. You know what I mean? That leads to anger, right? When you're thinking about the past, that leads to anger, right? So how important is forgiveness?
Yeah, forgiveness is huge. I have forgiven myself, I think. I think it's constant. I think it's something that changes sometimes from day to day or week to week or month to month, because maybe you have forgiven yourself for something, and then it kind of creeps back in, maybe, for some of the mistakes, because I still do think about where would my life be if I didn't make all those mistakes. That's a form of me not forgiving myself by even allowing myself to think that.
Yeah.
And that thought doesn't persist every single day, mind you, like it maybe used to. So, those thoughts like that are getting further and farther between. Forgiveness in others is also huge. That's as Christ-like as you can be, and maybe super difficult though on some things. To forgive others. I've not been super tested. I mean, yeah, there's some small things along the way, some forgiveness that I've had to cope with and heal and mend with. If I don't know, to paint a picture, if my wife's driving both my boys, and they're going to an amusement park, and a drunk driver hits them and takes out my whole family and leaves me by myself, would I have the ability to forgive that guy? That would be difficult, I think. Maybe someday in my lifetime, my level of spirituality will allow me to. I don't know right now. I'd rather not yet find out, obviously, but I think there's certain gradients of forgiveness depending on what you're asking to be forgiven for or to forgive for. And some of those large ones, I don't know if would be capable yet. I do believe it is the right thing to do. Yes, I want to be more capable of it. I think it is extremely important for your own healing, to not run around angry like you were mentioning. You run around angry, that just brings yourself down. You're allowing somebody else to take your peace and serenity from you.
And for those of you guys who are listening, once again, I just want to hit on the point where Erick said, forgiveness is for you. It's not for the other person. When you forgive, you are freeing yourself of the bondage that you have put yourself in. It's like drinking poison and wanting the other person to die. That's what unforgiveness is. Correct. So forgiveness is for you. And I know for some guests that we had on here, they didn't get a chance to ask for forgiveness or to forgive their fathers, right? Because father wounds are deep. So what I suggested to them was write a letter, man. Yeah. Write a letter of what you would say to that person.
Right. Put it on paper. Get it out of your mind.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a huge thing to do. It's an excellent coping skill.
Yep.
Write your thoughts down, especially if the person that you'd like to say it to is gone. The only way you can somewhat still maybe communicate and get it off of your chest or out of your head and off of your heart is to write a letter. That's a really good mechanism. It's write that letter, put it in a God box, even write a letter, put it in a box labeled God, and then close it up. You said it, you've forgiven, you move on. Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you, Erick, what would you say to individuals who may be hesitant or even skeptical about seeking help for their addiction, especially if they're worried about the impact of their family or parental responsibilities?
I guess I truly believe only those that are desperate enough are going to seek it. And if you are desperate enough, you're going to have to be in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
That pain is going to cause desperation. We call that the gift of desperation because it truly is a gift. That's how I got here. Like I said, I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm grateful that I got a DUI that landed me in a position that I could not get myself out of, that forced my hand to this program. And I couldn't be more grateful for it. That was the gift of desperation. That gift, it is truly a gift. But it doesn't come easy. It causes, it comes with pain. That's what puts you there to begin with. If you're hurting on the inside, if you're struggling, if your marriage is struggling and it's due to substance use or alcoholism, there's lots of programs out there. There's numbers, obviously with the advent of Google and all that, you can find community self-help meetings, talk to somebody, reach out, get a hold of people, talk to somebody about it. If you're hurting that much inside, if you ever see me in a yard working, come up, shake my hand. I'll help you. I'll guide you. I have loved nothing more than to help somebody who's struggling the way I struggled, because, the whole program I'm in is free. They call it the cheapest therapy on the planet. It's $1 a week. You ain't going to buy better therapy, and you get it from so many different angles. Maybe not from a medical professional, but you're getting real life strength, real life messages, real life experience from people who've walked the same walk that you might be walking through. And if you're walking through something difficult, I guarantee you there's a man or woman out there who has gone through what you're going through and can help guide you through what you're going through. But you gotta be vulnerable enough to ask, and maybe even in enough pain and desperate enough to ask. That's the unfortunate part about it is you got to be desperate to do it in most cases.
Erick, lastly, I wanted to ask you, what goals or aspirations do you have for yourself now as a parent that is sober, and how do you plan on achieving them going forward?
Just to continue to be a ShowUp Dad, man. I love your title of your show. I think that's so fitting. That more than just a paycheck caption is perfect. I grew up and my dad was more than a paycheck, but I know his father was a paycheck, and the fathers, as generations we move forward, I want to try to emulate what my dad did for me. That would be a goal for me. He was a great father. Obviously provide more for my children. I didn't go without, but we didn't have anything lavish or, and not a lot of vacations or anything like that. I'd like to continue helping others and showing my sons ways, allowing them to fail and showing them ways to pick themselves back up. I don't want to be that kind of dad who runs in there and rescues them every single time they're about to make a mistake. I want them to fall and skin their knee, and then I'll show them how to do it moving forward, show them the right way, or show them a different way or a better way, or however you want to put it. And being there for my wife, so supportive in my journey. She was, I couldn't have done it without her. I believe God brought her into my life for this very reason. It's funny when you think there are no coincidences in this world, in my mind. And God brought her into my life knowing that this stuff was coming. That was his plan for me. I'm supposed to be right where I am at today. None of this is by accident. And so I just, I'd like to be able to teach my boys a Christian way of life. My wife and I talk about that frequently, maybe putting them into private Christian schools, just so we can bring them up in the manner in which we see fit, rather than the public school system, which we're a little unsure of at this moment. That's a whole nother topic. Yeah, just be the best role model and mentor for my boys that I possibly can be. And being sober allows me to be present. And I mentioned earlier, not just physically present. I was always physically present. I showed up, I paid the bills, I took care of things, whatever, but I was never present, now. And I think there's a whole nother realm of present even that I'm untapped into yet. I feel like I'm present most of the time. I don't forget things. I'm there for every little moment. And I'm paying attention so I can put that in the bank for later. And I was incapable of doing that before, and now so fully present. But I believe that there's even another level of fully present that I'm eager to see if it's still, if there's more. That's one thing I definitely want to never stop doing, is working on growth for myself and just being the best possible version that I can be. And then let that transpire into the kind of father that I'm going to be, or that I am, currently. Just be fully engaged with my boys and family. Life is life is a gift, right? And what a gift it has been for me to go through this journey, and for God to allow me to have two boys. I'm 40. I'll be 45 years old next month. I got a 6-week-old and a 20-month-old. First time married too.
Wow, praise God. I'm saying,
a lot of this stuff happened to me, and I believe it happened for a reason.
Yeah,
I believe it was God's will, because I was the kind of guy who was never probably getting married, and I certainly wasn't having kids, and I'd written off the idea of having kids because of my age and the age of a woman that I would date. She's probably not going to want to have kids. And then, and then God put my wife in my life, and then He blessed us with two little boys that I'm 45, she's 43, and we're tired, but we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's a gift. It's a journey. It's interesting. It's so many wonderful things that I'm not even certain of what is out there yet for us. And I'm just excited about what the future holds. And I can only equate that to being sober, without the sobriety. I have a sobriety date of 2/25/2022, and I hold on to that date with everything. That date is actually, and this might come off to some listeners as wrong, but that date's more important than the birth dates of my boys. That's more important than my marriage anniversary. That date is the most important date in my life, because without that date, if I lose that date, all the other stuff might go with it. The marriage, the kids, the relationships, the job, everything hinges on that sobriety date. And so I hold on to that sobriety date as the most important date in my life. And it's a big deal to me. It wasn't always. It took a while to get to where I'm at. With help, a great support system, my higher power, God, and just persistence. That whole non-surrender mentality that I spoke about earlier. I kind of just flipped the script on it. I don't surrender. I don't lay down for nothing, man. I like I said, I had a 9-year apprenticeship and fought my way through that damn thing, and came out at finally, right. And that lack of ability to surrender, I use that same mindset with my sobriety now. Like, I won't surrender to this disease of alcoholism, and I just apply it in reverse. I hold that sobriety date, and I'm not going to let this thing take me out, or anything else for that matter.
All right on, Erick. Thank you so much, brother, for being so open and transparent with our audience. I know this podcast is going to reach and touch the hearts of everybody listening. I thank you for having the courage to come on here and just share everything you've been through, bro.
Absolutely.
This is definitely a message of hope, brother. I thank you for that.
I appreciate your time, and appreciate you putting this show on. It's been an honor, and to allow me a platform to be able to share my experience, strength, and hope with your listeners. And I hope, I hope that somebody out there does hear something that maybe will help them. Whether I know it or not, or whether it can be quantified, is neither here nor there. I put the action in and leave the results up to God. So I just hope that somebody out there heard something that they needed to hear, and that they can be blessed with recovery if that's what they need in their life.
Right on. And I'll go ahead and put your information, how they can reach out to you on the show notes there, Erick. And, for you guys listening, it'll be on the show notes. Once again, this is Erick Demerath, Journeyman Lineman, Local 47. He is a ShowUp Dad, and he is coming on here, and he's just talking to us about being an overcomer. So once again, thank you, Erick.
You got it. Thank you very much, David.